You really have to hear what this team encountered. Stay with this, and you will understand why I never answer my own name after dark. 3 people died in Black Elk Wilderness. 1 more was taken and never recovered. And the county signed the file as exposure and panic. That explanation was wrong. On October 14th, 2017, in the Black Hills of South Dakota, deputies found a pair of boots standing upright on stone beside a break in the earth. 50 feet away, District Ranger Dana Mercer lay on her back with no crushed ribs, no burst organs, no blood. Yet her face had the gray look of a person bled out. The medical examiner wrote that her heart failed under acute stress. He could not explain why the tissue around it looked starved rather than damaged. He could not explain why Kyle Janis left prints across wet soil that ended in the middle of a stride. He could not explain why every watch from the site had stopped between 2:11 and 2:13 a.m., or why the report placed the team on the wrong ridge. What comes next is the account. My name is Elias Red Cloud. I was 41. I had worked 14 years as tribal wildlife officer, and before that, I spent 6 years in the Army infantry. I grew up near Hill City, where the Black Hills rise from pasture into dark pine. My grandfather cut deadfall there. I learned tracks before I learned to drive. Nothing had ever frightened me. That changed at Black Elk Wilderness. The assignment looked ordinary on paper. Mule deer were avoiding one drainage. The campground staff had logged night calls from hikers who heard someone speaking Lakota beyond the trails. And 2 climbers had reported a low opening in the stone where warm air came out after sunset. The Forest Service wanted a survey before hunting traffic increased. We met at the trailhead after noon. Dana Mercer was 48, district ranger, 22 years in service, careful with language. Mara Voss was 36, wildlife biologist, 11 years in the field, exact in her notes. Ben Holloway was 39, county search and rescue medic, 15 years of backcountry response, broad-shouldered and kind with shaken people. Kyle Janis was 24, a seasonal forestry technician with 4 months on the job, eager and always stepping past where he had been told to stop. We hiked 7 miles in, and then left the route and followed an old fire break north into a part of the wilderness boxed by granite shelves and timber so thick the light stayed green even in mid-afternoon. The nearest staffed help at night was the Hill City Ambulance Bay, 24 miles away by trail and service road. To the west, stone needles rose above the trees. To the east, a limestone cut dropped into darkness under old pine needles. There were sinkholes in that country, cold vents, hidden seams where sound moved oddly and ground seemed to breathe. By dusk, the place felt sealed. The first wrong thing was a flannel shirt folded on a boulder half a mile from our point. It was dry, though rain had passed through. Mara checked for blood and found none. Ben said nobody folds a shirt before getting lost, and I found human prints pointing downhill toward the limestone cut. I followed them 12 steps. The 13th never came. The final print sat in black mud, toes pressed forward as if the man wearing that boot had stepped into air and been lifted. The woods went silent around us. No insects, no wing noise. We reached the opening at last light. It was not a cave mouth you would notice from above. It was a crack widened by old collapse, maybe 3 feet across, with smooth stone slanting inward under deadfall and roots. Warm air came up from it, carrying a sweet smell like wet pennies and old cedar. Tied to a branch near the opening was a strip of faded red cloth. Beneath it lay 3 small bundles of sage wrapped in brittle thread. Donna photographed them. I told her somebody had marked that place on purpose and we needed to back out before dark. She asked why. I said because people from my family did not leave offerings at empty ground. We stayed. That was the choice that opened everything. At 8:17 p.m., Kyle said he heard a woman calling from the trees south of camp. He said the voice asked for help in Lakota, though Kyle did not speak Lakota beyond greetings he had picked up. Ben told him to sit down. Dana ordered radios checked. All 5 units spat static at once. Mara said the batteries were fresh. Then the woods went silent again. Kyle stood up before anyone could grab him. The voice came a second time, closer, using my aunt's name. That was when I understood 2 things. It knew enough to choose words, and it wanted one of us to move first. Kyle ran 10 yards downslope, and Ben caught his pack strap. Something struck the trees to our left, not a body, not a rock fall, but a hard sequence of impacts moving too high and too fast for any bear in that country. We turned toward the sound. Kyle was gone. No shout, no brush crash. His flashlight rolled back into camp, still on. We found his jacket laid flat beside the limestone cut, zipper closed, sleeves folded under. His boots stood side by side 2 feet away, toes pointed toward the dark. There were no drag marks, no blood, no sign he had undressed himself. Night 1 never ended cleanly. We heard steps circling camp that did not match each other. Some were heavy and spaced wide. Others were light, near barefoot, with a wet scrape at the end. Once I saw part of one moving between trees where lantern light thinned, a shoulder higher than Ben's. In its an arm too long for the torso, skin or hide reflecting dull as soaked bark. No face. Each time it neared, the woods emptied of sound first. At dawn, we tried to leave. Mara found our trail markers stacked in a neat line facing the wrong direction. Dana checked her GPS and handed it to me. The map screen showed us a mile east of where we stood. Ben said that was impossible. Dana said nothing. We moved uphill anyway. By noon, we were back at the same limestone cut. That second day stripped away every ordinary explanation. Mara found old initials carved into a pine above camp. 1956. Under them were 4 words cut with a narrow blade. Do not answer them. Ben uncovered a rusted survey stake and, under it, a tobacco tin wrapped in cloth. Inside was a folded note by a fire lookout named Warren Bell, dated August 3rd, 1974, and it said 2 men had followed the voice of a child into the stones. It said one came back walking, but not waking. It said old Lakota men told him the openings were nests for Wakangtapa, sacred takers, things that drink breath and leave the body standing a while after the person is gone. My grandmother had used the same name when I was small. She told me if I ever heard a loved one calling from timber after dark, I was to answer with tobacco and silence, never with my own voice. Night 2 came early under cloud cover. Dana wanted flares set at the tree line. Ben counted shells for the shotgun he had packed against coyotes. 14 at dusk, 10 by midnight. Every shot went into movement or sound. Near 11:40, the voice came back wearing Kyle's tone, confused and thin, asking why we had left him outside. Ben took 1 step toward the trees before I caught his sleeve. Behind us, on the far side of camp, something knocked over Mara's sample case. It was a clean distraction, deliberate. While we turned, Dana disappeared from beside the fire. We found her 20 yards away on open stone. No wound, no fracture. Eyes open, mouth parted like she had been trying to pull air through water. The silence around her was total. Even the wind had stopped. Ben grabbed Dana under the shoulders and hauled her back while Mara cried out that something was on the ridge above us. I looked up and saw 3 shapes against the stone line, each tall as a lodgepole section, each still except for the heads. Watching, choosing, not random. I took the tobacco tin, the old sage bundles, and the red cloth from the branch. I laid them at the crack in the earth and said nothing. Mara understood. She knelt beside me. The air coming from below turned cold for one breath, then warm again. The shapes on the ridge lowered out of sight. We should have left then. Ben would not leave Dana. That was why he died. He was the best of us. He kept talking to her as if voice alone could call a person back across distance. When he bent to lift her again, Dana spoke in Kyle's voice from somewhere beneath the stones and said, "Ben, help me." He turned, one step, then two. I reached for him and caught only the back of his jacket. Something moved out of the crack low and fast. I saw hands, I think. Too many joints in the fingers. A head level with my chest, though the body stayed below ground. Wet black shine at the mouth. Ben made one sound, short and plain, and then all strength went out of him at once. He fell as if a valve inside him had been opened. Mara and I dragged him back. His pulse flickered under my fingers and quit. He looked 80 years old in less than a minute. We did not sleep. We fed the opening every scrap of tobacco we had. We waited for gray light, then walked west without checking any instrument. The hills let us out just after noon. By then, I knew the harder truth. I survived because it let me. The official report said Kyle succumbed to exposure after wandering from camp. Dana died of a cardiac event brought on by stress, and Ben suffered fatal shock during recovery efforts. It placed our camp on a ridge we never occupied. It omitted the boots, the folded jacket, the stopped watches, the tobacco tin, and the note from 1974. The medical examiner told me that he had never seen 3 bodies with so little physical damage and such complete systemic collapse. 2 years later, he died at his desk of heart failure. In 2021, a deputy who worked the recovery file died the same way. Black Elk Wilderness is open to the public today. Most people who walk there see granite towers, trail light, deer moving through pine, and families stopping for photographs. They go home with sore legs, clean air in their lungs, and nothing stranger than weather. But some nights the wind drops all at once, the insects cut out, and a warm breath rises from stone where no opening appears on any map. On those nights, voices carry where they should not. People hear names nobody nearby could know. Cases stay separate. A fall here, a missing hiker there. Heart failure years later in men and women who were healthy the week before. Nobody connects them because the pattern is patient. If you go into the Black Hills and the woods become silent in that complete way, do not answer the voice that knows you. Do not follow footsteps that stop mid-stride. Leave the place empty of your name. I survived because I kept my voice and gave them breath in place of it. That is the part that keeps me awake at night.